Hi everyone and welcome to our chemistry review. And so we're going to be reaching back a little bit and reviewing the parts of an atom, what are elements, the periodic table, how it's set up, properties of metals and nonmetals as well. Okay, and so I'm going to be referring to the handouts that you have, okay, that you got in the mail. So you might see some familiar little snapshots and whatever, okay, but any of the other stuff is just pictures that I've gotten from the net, okay? So don't worry, you don't need to have your papers in front of you, but in general, while you're reviewing on these different topics, please do feel free to look over your work and to put your pencil to the paper and just, answer any of the questions that you didn't do. Or alternatively, you can just simply listen in and then you can practice by, after finishing it off, you can practice by doing the quizzes chemistry review assignment. Okay, so remember to use your TDSB account to sign in. Okay, that will be available at the time of this video posting. And then just as a side note, similar to the electricity culminating activity, I'm going to be posting on the Google Classroom, and I'm going to email in a few days the culminating activity for chemistry. Okay, so again, similar to electricity, you have to work individually. That means no help from parents or anyone else, okay? And you will only be able to attempt the activity one time, okay? So you won't be able to try it out and try it over again, okay? I've given you an email as well with information on how much that's worth, right? Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so lesson number 10 was on the parts of an atom, okay? So please remember that there's three different types of particles, okay? There are protons, electrons, and there's also neutrons, okay? Now, let's just go over what let's go over what protons are first, okay? So protons are positively charged, okay? They are in the center of the atom, and the center part is called the nucleus, right? Okay, so protons positive. Electrons are negative, okay? Electrons are negative. They orbit around the center of the atom, okay, around the nucleus. Okay, lastly, neutrons are also inside the nucleus, and they are in the center, that means as well. Okay, they have no charge. So maybe I'll just write that down as well, actually, right? So I'm going to put down the fact that neutrons have a zero charge, okay? Protons have a positive charge. Electrons have a negative charge. Okay, next up, I just wanted to also mention that uh, protons and neutrons, they have a heavier mass, okay? So they're kind of like your body, okay? Compared to electrons that have a lighter mass. They're kind of like your hair compared to the rest of your body, the mass of your body, okay? So electrons are very lightweight. They are around the nucleus, they orbit around the nucleus, whereas neutrons and protons, they both have a heavier mass and they are located inside the nucleus, okay? So inside the nucleus, that contains the majority of the mass of an atom because it's made up of the protons and neutrons, which are the heavier particles, okay? Okay, next up, let's see this. So just remember that the overall charge of the entire atom is neutral because the charges from the electrons and protons, they balance out. Okay, so let's just see this. Let's just do this, one of these questions, okay, together. And then, because there's going to be something maybe kind of similar to this on the quizzes assignment, the review assignment, okay? So let's count the number of protons. Well, protons are plus charges and they're inside the nucleus. So one, there's a P, there's a P, and another P. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's four protons, okay? How many neutrons are there? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? So there's 5, and that's neutral charges, right? Whereas protons are plus, right? How many electrons are there? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. And you've noticed that I'm labeling them as negative, okay? So there's going to be 4 minuses. I'm just going to make this green. Okay, so there's 4 minus. Okay, so how many positive charges are there? Well, there's 4 positive charges, right? How many negative charges are there? Well, the electrons are negative, so there's also 4. Okay, so 4 plus, 4 minus. So if you have a positive 4 and you're minusing 4, what is the overall charge? Well, the overall charge is neutral, right? That's why we don't go walk around like in nature. Things are kind of like just neutral. That's why we don't like attract each other, for example. Okay. Okay, let's try another one. Same way, okay? So let's do this. So let's mark. Okay, so protons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I find that there's 5 p's, so I'm going to put 5. Neutrons, let's do them in blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 neutrons. It doesn't matter that the number is different because they're neutral. They don't have a charge. Okay, and then lastly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 electrons. Okay, so how many positive charges are there? There's 5 positive charges. How many negative charges are there? There are 5 negative. Whoops, let's make that green. 5 negative. Okay, 5 positive, 5 negative. If I have $5, but I lose $5, overall I have $0. Okay, so the overall charge is neutral, which is 0. Okay, that kind of sums up atoms. Okay, let's keep going on. Okay, so over here, let's talk about elements. Okay, so an element is a simple substance that cannot be broken down into simpler substances. Okay, so if you have an element, that's the kind of like one of the fundamental particles. Okay, an atom is an element basically. Okay, at the core of it. Okay, now a symbol or a chemical symbol is the short way of writing the name of an element. Okay, so just remember there are 118 different kinds of atoms that we know of. Remember that we actually corrected our worksheet because that's a really old worksheet. I love the worksheets to be honest, but it's a really old one, and so it only had like 9. I think it had way less, but at that time they had not been discovered yet. Okay, which is kind of cool. Okay, next up. All matter that we know of is made of these atoms or elements or combinations of these atoms or elements. Okay, so for example, um, our bodies are made up of hydrogen. So here's a hydrogen atom. There's the nucleus with 1 electron. There's carbon. Notice it has 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? Because carbon has an atomic number of 6. Okay, so this is a calcium atom. This is a nitrogen atom. Okay, so very similar to what we were just talking about right over here. This is an atom, right? What type of atom it is depends on how many protons, neutrons, and electrons it has. Okay, so that's kind of like the signature of a boron atom is that it has 5 protons and 5 electrons. Okay, that's how you can distinguish a boron atom from a beryllium atom, for example. Okay, so we are made up of all different types of these atoms, or sometimes what we do is we take these building blocks of these elements and we can build up different molecules. So we know that, for example, water is H2O. So there's 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen, and they're bonded together. So there's 2 hydrogens and 1 of these oxygens, they're put together, they're bonded together to make a molecule, okay? But generally, everything that we have in our whole life, all matter is made up of a combination of these 118 elements that we know about. Okay? Okay, let's keep going on. Okay, so 92 elements are found in nature. 26 elements have been made in labs. Okay, so these are some good numbers to know, the ones that are in red. So 118 atoms, 92 elements are found in nature, 26 have been made in labs. Okay, because they're too rare. It's very difficult to find them in real life. Okay? Next up. So, and here's a picture of the elements, right? Okay, so we kind of went over these things, and then we also went over some very common elements, okay, and their symbols. So there's definitely going to be some questions on the different types of atoms, okay? Sorry, the different element symbols, okay? So you've already memorized these maybe in the past, okay? But if you haven't, let's go over them, okay? So you'll need to know aluminum, Al, calcium, Ca, carbon, C, chlorine, Cl, copper, Cu. So please make note, I put these together on purpose because they're all beginning with C, and it's very easy to confuse them because calcium and carbon, they both have Ca in them, right? But only one of them is the symbol for carbon, okay? There's fluorine, there's gold, helium, hydrogen, iodine, iron. Okay, so some of them are funny, right? Because they don't even begin with the correct letter, so to speak. Okay, but it's because of the Latin name. Okay, so gold is Au. Iron is like related with the word ferrous or whatever, ferric. Okay, so which means iron. Okay, Pb is lead. Lithium that we have in our batteries, mercury, Hg. So this one is the only one that's liquid at room temperature. Nickel, nitrogen. So please be careful. Nickel, Ni, nitrogen, Ni, but nickel is the one that's Ni. Okay. Oxygen, plutonium. That's what we use for our nuclear reactors. Okay. Uh, Potassium is K. They're found in bananas. Silicon, which is used very much in technology. Ag is silver. Na is sodium, like table salt is partly sodium, okay? Ti is titanium, uranium, in like atomic bombs and that sort of thing, uranium U, okay? So there's 24 atoms that I want you to memorize there. Okay, sorry, 24 elements. Okay, so I want you to memorize these, and then there's going to be a part of the of our review for quizzes. We'll have like a whole bunch of these. Okay, but you're actually going to have to know all of these, so don't just memorize the ones that are only on quizzes. I might throw in a few of these from here that are not in the quizzes assignment, just so that I can keep the quizzes assignment a little bit shorter. Okay. Okay, let's keep going on. Okay, next up we've got the periodic table. Okay, so just a reminder, the periodic table is ordered by atomic numbers. So number 1, number 2 is helium, number 3 is lithium, number 4 is beryllium. Okay, as the atomic number increases, the atomic mass increases as well. Okay, so you have H, which is atomic number 1. It's a very lightweight particle. Why is it the most lightweight? Let's just go back for a few moments. Okay, it's because in an atom of H, it only has one proton and one electron. Okay, so let's take a look over here for 2 seconds. No, not this one. Let's take a look over here, okay? So if we were to look up beryllium, beryllium has number 4, okay? It has 4 protons and 4 electrons. So let's just look over here, okay? Beryllium is right over here. It's number 4. So atomic number 1 literally means that it has one proton and 1 electron. Atomic number 4, beryllium, means it has 4 protons and 4 electrons, okay? Atomic number 79 over here is gold. It means it has 79 protons, 79 electrons. Okay, so it's a much heavier atom. Okay, that's the idea here. So as the atomic number increases, the atomic mass increases as well. Okay, so next up, I want to remind you, how do we organize our periodic table? Well, there's groups. Okay, so groups go in columns. So you have to know that groups are associated with columns that go up and down or vertical, and that if they are in a same group, they actually share chemical, physical, and chemical properties. Okay, so this is group number 1, group number 2, group number 3, group number 18. They go vertically. Okay, next up, periods are in rows, so they go left to right or horizontal. So period 1 goes all the way across to here, over to helium. Period 2 starts at lithium and ends all the way at neon. Period 3 starts at sodium and ends at argon. Okay, so it goes all the way across. Okay, don't worry about these middle ones. Okay, don't worry about those ones. Okay, next up, there's also a staircase. Okay, so a staircase separates the metals. So first of all, there's metals on the left-hand side. So that's something important. There's metals on the left side, and then the metals, the non-metals, are on the right-hand side. Okay, and we have a staircase. Okay, okay, so this staircase, starting right on top of aluminum, okay, going down over to here. This is what separates the metals on the left from the non-metals on the right. So the ones that are right around here, they're called transition metals. So sometimes they have both properties, but for the purposes of our course, all we care about is the fact that the metals are on the left and the non-metals are on the right. Okay, so most elements exist as solids. Okay, so wherever we see over here, right, all the cubes, right, a cube means that they're solid at room temperature. Okay, some nonmetals exist as gases. Okay, so over here is the only place where we have gases. So oxygen, nitrogen, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and then there are only two metals that exist as liquids. Okay, mercury, Hg, and also bromine, Br. Okay, so mercury is right over here. That's a liquid. So you see there's a little water droplet right there. And then Br is also a water droplet, has a water droplet because the legend tells us that that's a liquid. Okay, so those are some key differences right here. So all of these are metals, all of these are solid, okay? But except for in there, there's a non-metal, okay? And hydrogen is kind of a funny one. It's actually in two groups, okay? But basically the metals are on the left, okay? Over here, there are some gases as well. Okay, let's just practice quickly a few different things. Okay, so let's look up the element chlorine. So chlorine, let's find out where chlorine is. I know it's a gas, so it must be a nonmetal. So there it is. Okay, so let's just look it up. What's the period and what's the group? Okay, so the period is period number 3. The group is group number 17. Okay, so I'm just going to write that down. The period is 3, the group is 17. What is the symbol for chlorine? Well, it's Cl. Okay, Cl. And what's the atomic number? So the atomic number is the number on the left-hand side. Atomic number, okay, so it's 17. Okay, next up, let's do potassium. Potassium is K. So let's find out where the K is, where potassium is. It's right over here. Okay, let's look up the period, the group, and the atomic number. Okay, so period right over here, we're going this way. It's period 4. K has group 1 and it's number 19. Okay, so right over here is the number. So please, when you're doing the quizzes assignment, the review assignment, please feel free to have this periodic table. I know everyone got sent one. If you don't have it in front of you or if you've lost it, please feel free just to look it up. I'll send you another PDF of the periodic table just in case you've lost yours. Okay, so it's all just handy. Okay, so please feel free to look up these numbers if there's a quizzes assignment question. Okay, so 4 and 1. Period 4, group number 1, and the symbol was K, and the atomic number is, I think, 19. Okay, so that just gives us an idea of some questions that I might ask you on the quizzes assignment. Okay? Okay. Okay, properties of metals is next. Okay, so here we have a bunch of metals, okay? Here are some examples of metals. Basically anything that you have on the left side of the periodic table, right? So anything on this side right here, notice that they're basically all the metals, right? Okay, so anything on the left-hand side, that's going to be a metal. Here are some examples: silver, copper, gold, iron, nickel, titanium, platinum, okay? You might even have something like brass, okay? So I think one of these is brass, which is an alloy, which means it's a combination of two different metals, and it's like a solution of metals. So one of them might be, brass would be copper and zinc, for example, okay? So every single metal is solid. So these are some properties of metals. They're solid except for mercury. Okay, and we've learned about that. Okay. Also, another property of metals is that they're all silver gray in color. Okay, so except for gold and copper. So gold, let's just say that's gold. I don't think it is, but this is gold. Let's just say this is copper. Okay. Other than that, every single what's it called? Every single metal is silver gray in color. Okay, so if you kind of look over here, the majority of these are silver gray in color. Sometimes you find them as deposits, as mineral deposits in like other items, okay, like embedded in things. So that might be why, like, you know, it's a little bit of a different color. Okay. Okay, so they're mostly silver gray except for gold and copper. Okay. Other properties of metals are that they're good conductors of heat. That's why when we're heating up a pot, a lot of times we actually use metal for pots, okay? Just because they conduct electricity so well, they conduct heat so well, and they pass the heat to the water very quickly, for example. Another thing is that they are conductors of electricity. So wires are conductors, and wires are usually made of copper, okay? There's also something called metallic luster, so you can polish up metals, and it's called metallic lusters, and they're very shiny. And then another thing, one last thing that we really talked about in this class was that metals are malleable. So if I were to hammer a piece of gold, I could make something called gold leaf or gold foil. Okay, it can be very, very, very thin. Okay, last but not least, this is getting to be a long lesson, 20 minutes. Okay, so let's look over some properties of nonmetals. Okay, so first of all, nonmetals are found in all states, so solid, liquid, and gases. Okay, so for example, this is carbon. So carbon is graphite. We can use them in our pencils, but it could also be, for example, diamonds, right? That's also carbon. Those are found as solids. Bromine is a liquid at room temperature, one of the two. Okay, and then there's also gases, right? Like oxygen and nitrogen. Okay, so they're found in all different states. They come in many colors. So sulfur has that yellowish color. Bromine has this kind of brownish red color. And then this has like a metallic sort of a gunmetal gray metallic color. Okay, that's iodine. Okay, they come in many different colors, whereas metals come mostly in silver gray colors, except for gold and copper. Okay. Another thing we talked about is the fact that metals are insulators. Sorry, metals are conductors. Okay, any metals are conductors, but non-metals are insulators. Okay, so plastic, rubber, glass, they actually protect us from heat, and they also protect us from electricity. Okay. Lastly, we know that metals are usually non-malleable. Now, another word for non-malleable is brittle because it breaks apart really easily, okay, if you hammer it, okay? So non-metals like ceramics, plates and stuff like that, right? Those are typical examples of non-metals. Those are non-malleable, okay? And then one last thing is that non-metals can have an odor or they can be inodorous, okay? That means that there's no smell. Okay, so either they have an odor or they have no odor. Inodorous? Oh gosh, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly now. Okay, whatever. Okay, so for example, chlorine gas, if you've ever been to a pool, you're smelling the chlorine gas, okay? Now, chlorine gas in that sort of environment, it's not a big deal. It's not a safety concern, okay? But if you were to be poisoned by chlorine gas or have huge quantities of chlorine gas, that would be poisonous and would also smell very strong. Okay? Okay, so actually, we ended off much faster than we started. That is the lesson for today. Okay, so that's the chemistry review. Please feel free to look back on your worksheets, your handouts, okay? Review all these lessons that you've done already in the past, okay? And then when you feel ready, do the chemistry review assignment, okay? So in a few days, as I've mentioned, I will make available the chemistry culminating activity. But for now, let's just practice the quizzes assignment for chemistry review. You're allowed to do them over and over again until you feel really comfortable, okay? I think this chemistry review will be a little bit longer just because I'm going to have a bunch of questions related with the elements, like memorizing these things. I might have like 10 questions even just on this, just so that you practice them. But just remember, you have to know all 24 of these because I might choose some different ones in our quizzes final culminating activity. Okay? Okay, everyone, take care. Give yourself a pat on the back. You're all doing so, so great. Okay? Hang in there. We're almost done. Take care. Bye-bye.